In this All About Windows Phone video, we're going to take a look at the Nokia Lumia 800. This is of course Nokia's first Windows Phone device. Fairly standard box here, same as the X7 style. Nokia have been moving in this direction for a while, so let's open it up. You can see everything is arranged in layers here. On the very top of course we have the device. This is the black version of the Nokia Lumia 800. It also comes in blue and magenta, although the magenta version won't be available till early next year. Let's just have a look at the rest of the contents of this box. Take the tray out here. We've got the documentation, or kind of the leaflet layer. Again, this is something Nokia have been doing recently, a quick start guide here that sort of introduces you to the phone, and I rather like this because it really gives you a sense of familiarity, and for anyone who hasn't used a Nokia device before or the platform, this leaflet will get you going very quickly indeed. There's other languages inside here, as well as a slightly longer user guide, and of course the full guide is available on the web. Going down to the next layer, we've got a slip case. This is kind of the silicone rubber style that many people will be familiar with. Protects the back of the device well. It's got the usual cutouts. Of course on the front here it doesn't offer so much protection, but it's nice to see Nokia including this with the device itself. On the bottom layer we've got the various other bits and pieces. Here is the Nokia sort of standard charger now. This is the new style. You plug a USB cable in, the other end into the phone of course. With this you can charge the phone in about 140 minutes, that's just over 2 hours. So of course you've got the USB cable here, that's for charging and for PC connectivity. It's just a standard micro USB cable. And finally the headset itself, again standard 3.5mm audio. This is for listening to music. So there we go, that's the contents of the box of the Nokia Lumia 800. We should really take a bit more time to look at the device because this really is a beautiful piece of design. So let's take a tour around the Nokia Lumia 800. I think the key design feature is really this unibody design here. You can see how there's a shape on the back, it sort of all seamlessly integrates together. What's been done here, this is a single piece of machined polycarbonate. That is a plastic material, but it doesn't feel low quality. This feels like a really premium design. It actually feels a lot warmer than the typical aluminium and metal designs that you often see in these high-end devices. What's then been done is the screen and the obviously internals of the phone have been fitted inside it. Nokia calls this an example of extreme product design. I think it works really well. It looks absolutely gorgeous, particularly the way the screen kind of seamlessly fits into the bevel here. I've not really seen it on any other device. This is of course in common with the Nokia N9, which we saw this design first, but of course for most people when they see this design the first time they see it will be on the Nokia 800. Going around the outside of the phone, on the bottom here we've got a mono speaker. On the top we've kind of got the 3.5mm audio jack, and these are the micro USB ports as well as the SIM card slot. I'll just show you how those work. Just push that in, that pops out, there's the USB port. And then similarly for the micro SIM card, you actually slide that across, it then pops out. I've already got a micro SIM in here, so I'll put that all back together, slide it back into place, press that down. And then on the other side here we've got a couple of buttons. These are the volume control buttons. This is the lock key and the power key, and a camera capture key. On the back of the device here we've got the 8-megapixel camera. This is actually Carl Zeiss optics with quite a reasonable size sensor. It doesn't measure up to something like the Nokia N8, but this is going to be right at the top of the game in terms of the quality of the pictures it captures. And you can see here there's a accompanying LED flash. It's cut above the normal LED flash. Nokia said it's about 20% above their previous generation, which was already one of the best on the market. Then just returning to the front of the device here, just point out at the bottom here, quite difficult to see, are three capacitive buttons, either the standard Windows Phone button back, the sort of start key or the Windows key, and a find key. Before I start up the Lumia 800, I just want to show you some comparison with other devices. Here for example is the Nokia X7. This has a bigger screen of course, and you can see it's a slightly bigger device. This is more comfortable to hold in the hand. Maybe a more interesting comparison here is the Nokia C7, so a similar size and screens. The C7 here is actually 3.5 inches, this is 3.7 inches, but you can see it not that dissimilar in size. And similarly with the Nokia N8 here, you can see the Lumia 800 is just marginally bigger, but it's actually a slightly slimmer device. Then here's the Nokia C301. This is kind of your typical Series 40 device. This is actually a touch and type one. but the Lumia 800 is not actually that much bigger. You compare it to some of the other Windows Phone devices. This, for example, is the Samsung Omnia 7. You can see here, not that dissimilar in some dimensions, but noticeably the Nokia N800 here is just that little bit small, making it just a bit more comfortable. I think there'll always be comparisons with the bigger screen Windows Phone devices. This is actually an HD2 from HTC. It's running Windows Mobile 6.5, but it's very similar to the size of the Titan and some of the other big Windows Phone devices. And you can see here there is a considerable difference in size. So this one's much easier to hold in the hand. And I think one of the things that's interesting about the design really is these curved edges, and particularly if you can just see the tapering at the end here, makes the Lumia 800 feel a little bit smaller than it actually is. So as I say, I think this design is really nicely done. We saw it first on the N9 of course, but this will be where everyone else sees it. So let's switch on the device. You can see the power button on the side here, as I said earlier, doubles as the lock key. Holder device vibrates as you switch it on. Capacitive keys light up, making them a lot more obvious in the Nokia logo. As this phone starts up, let's just talk a little bit more about the hardware, or rather what's not here. There's no front-facing camera, there's no G sensor, that's important when playing games, and there are some other omissions, particularly if you're coming from other Nokia devices such as the Symbian 3 range. For example, there's no Pentaband 3G, no FM transmitter. I don't think any of those are really serious. All the key elements are in place and it's a very nice package, but when you're buying this device it is something to be aware of. Why has it happened? Well, it's really down to the fact that Nokia produced this device in kind of the 8 months from their February announcement with Microsoft about the sort of partnership and switching to Windows Phone. In order to get this device out in that time frame, what they've actually done is use the innards from Compal, that's kind of the standard bits inside, things like the Qualcomm, the 1.4 gigahertz processor and the 512 megabytes of RAM and some other components, and they've wrapped it in the Nokia camera module here, obviously the shell, the design that we talked about earlier, the screen. And that's enabled them to take a shortcut and get it out quickly. It does mean that some things that people might have been expecting aren't there. I'm sure they're going to come in future devices. Nokia is now committed to Windows Phone. There's a portfolio of products. But it is something people may want to be aware of before deciding to buy or not buy this phone. But for me, it's not a serious omission, given that there's more on the way, and I still think this is a really attractive package. Just to talk a little bit about the screen here, it's AMOLED, CBD, that's a clear black display, 3.7 inches. This is kind of Nokia technology. Why is CBD important? Well, it improves the image quality. You can probably see here that the blacks really are very black. The colours kind of pop out of the screen. I mean, it looks really incredible from different angles, and that clear black display kind of has a polarizing element to it, which means that in sunlit conditions, i.e. outside, the screen is actually much more visible than kind of some of the competing phones. It's actually one of I think the key features of this phone, why you'd choose it over some of the other Windows Phone devices, apart from the kind of overall design aesthetic. I think the other thing to note is it uses slightly less power, so there's an additional reason that Nokia have done CBD. As I say, the screen really is one of the special elements of this device. Here's the Windows Phone start screen with its live tiles, the idea being that you customize these by pinning things to the start screen. That can be contacts, application, tasks, or things internal to an application with deep links, so that you customize it exactly to your liking, and it's kind of where you do all the major tasks from the phone. Just swipe across here, we can see you get the application list, fairly standard. If we go back to the start screen, you can see some of the things going on. You can see how many emails I've got coming in. Some Nokia customisations, we'll come to those in a minute. Xbox Live, Office at the bottom here. The basis of Windows Phone is really based around hubs. So if we look at one of these, the People Hub is a good example of this. Here you've got kind of your contacts or your address book. But what Microsoft has done is they've integrated LinkedIn, Facebook and Twitter, so you get your social stuff coming in. You can see here the latest status updates. You can see my recent contacts here. Let's just dive into Ewan Spence here. You can see all the information about how you want to call him, but more importantly, you can also see what his status updates on the network are. You can go and have a look at his pictures, and that pulls them in from Facebook and potentially other sources as well. You've got the typical search as you'd expect. This all integrates very smoothly. I think it's one of the highlights of Windows Phone. We'll talk more about that in a future review. Going back to the start screen here, you can see a similar thing happens for email. You can see the various ways you can pivot between the different screens. So let's just take a quick look at the Office Hub here. It's obviously one of the key features for Microsoft. You can see notes here, that's from OneNote, but also documents from Word, Excel and PowerPoint. This also links to SkyDrive, which gives you 25 gigabytes of space to play with, SharePoint as well, and Office 365. Those are both important for the enterprise. SkyDrive is actually a nice feature. It integrates in the camera and pictures as well. You can upload pictures. Again, we'll come back to a lot of these features because there's a lot to explore in this new platform. So let's just have a look at some of the Nokia specific customizations. I think probably the most important one, the most popular here, is going to be Nokia Drive. This is really turns your phone into a sat nav. A couple of key features really. It's simplified down so that it's very easy to use, but also it uses offline maps if you want to. You can download the maps, so that means you don't have to be downloading the maps over the air as you go. That's particularly important if you're travelling abroad, obviously. So let's just go through a quick setup of how this works. If I tap the menu here, we can set a destination. So let's set a destination. Okay, London, United Kingdom, that'll do fine for this demo. It will go online, search for the right one. Yes, that's London that we want there. And you can then see it's brought it up on screen. And yes, I want to drive to that location. And there you can see it's the overview map, and we're off and ready to go. The nice thing about this is it also works and is fully optimized in landscape mode. That's something that's not really true of the rest of Windows Phone. So I think this is a particularly key offering for Nokia. You know, the kind of equivalents that are available in the marketplace that add this kind of functionality cost anywhere up to about £60. So Nokia's adding some real value here. Let's go back to the start screen and we'll have a look at the other Nokia specific customization that's important, and this is Nokia Music. This really consists of several components: an MP3 store, that's Nokia Music Store. Then if we just scroll across, we'll see them all listed here. My Music, obviously your music collection. Mixed Radio, which is a streaming radio service that's completely free, about 100 different radio stations. The MP3 store I mentioned earlier. Gigs, that's actually Gig Finder as it was known in its earlier incarnation on some of Nokia's Symbian devices. This is added on top of the Microsoft Music offering, so the Zune Music offering is still there. In fact, you'll drop into it at various times from this application, and if you want to use something like the Zune Music Pass, you can do so. But let's just go and have a look at Mixed Radio, because I think that's kind of the key offering here. What this does is gives you a list of the various stations that you can listen to. So let's just go into one of these. Pop here, you can then see here there's a list of stations you can listen to. You tap on the tile, it drops you into that particular station, and it will connect over Wi-Fi or 3G and then start playing back that particular station. And you can see here, there we go. You can skip through a couple of these tracks. Also coming soon, although not available in the retail version, is offline functionality, which means you don't have to be connected to listen to a particular radio stream. I think the benefits of this really are about simplicity. It just works out of the box. You saw how quickly I was able to get into it, and gives you access to a great range of music. Yes, it's not as flexible as something like Spotify, but the free price tag can't really be beaten, and I think it's the ease and the quick access that will really stand out here. Let's just go back and have a look at some of the other bits and pieces. The MP3 store is really exactly what you'd expect. It gives you access to kind of top songs, and you can look at top albums as well, and also do a genre search. This is linked to a Nokia account. People with Symbian device will already have these, but you can sign up from the phone easily enough if you don't have one. The prices will vary depending on the market, generally about 79p in the UK per track. But what's really critical here is that Nokia Music Store is actually available in more markets than the Zune marketplace, and so this enables Nokia to launch with a music service ready to go in more markets. And actually, you know, with millions of tracks, I think it's around 14 million now, Nokia actually has a very comprehensive collection ready to go. So Gigs is actually location specific and looks up music events that are taking place near you. So you can see here I'm in the southeast of the UK, so a lot of these events are taking place down in Brighton. So there we go, that's a quick look through the Nokia Music. As I said, it will drop you into Zune Music if appropriate, and of course that's still present on the phone if you want to use it. There are a couple of other Nokia customizations that are worth mentioning, one of which is App Highlight. This is kind of a selected list of apps that Nokia has chosen to highlight to kind of help you find what are the best apps on the platform. It's really, as you'd expect, you know, you can just scroll between the various different types here. When you click on one of these, it will drop you into the standard marketplace where you can go and download or buy the application as appropriate. I think this is a nice way to do it because sometimes it can be difficult to find the applications that are good in the marketplace. There are some other Nokia specific applications. You can see here there's contacts transfer. That uses Bluetooth to transfer your contacts from your existing phone, helps you getting your data onto your phone as well. WeCare is just a Nokia Care application. It doesn't really do very much, but you can also see here Nokia Maps. Now this isn't actually available just yet, but it's coming soon. It should be available by the time most people buy the device. You can see here this is kind of a placeholder where it's saying go to marketplace. If we go and have a look, you can see what this is going to look like. This is kind of the standard Nokia Maps experience. Rather than navigation as Nokia Drive, it's kind of an explorer, so you can find out things around you, find places of interest and things like that. So I think that'll be a key selling point, because obviously that will be preloaded on most of the retail devices. With these software customisations, most notably Nokia Drive but also Nokia Music, Nokia have made this device stand out from its Windows Phone competitors, but perhaps more importantly its Android competitors as well. I do think more work needs to be done here. Nokia say further applications and services are on the way and that will be delivered over the air. The Lumia 800 will obviously benefit from those. There's also some exclusive third-party titles on the way, notably ESPN Sports Hub and some EA games. I think those taken with this hardware design, which I really do think is one of the standouts of this Nokia 800. For me, it's one of the best designed phones of the last few years. It's one that you put it on the table, people want to know what it is, they pick it up. It's kind of caressable, for want of a better word, and it's really very solid build quality. It feels comfortable in the hand. It's just one of those products that has that X factor, if you will. So taking all of that together, I think Nokia will have on their hands a device that will sell very well and certainly bring them back into the game at the high end of the smartphone space. There's clearly a lot more to come from Nokia in Windows Phone. We already know about the 710 and there's other products on the way. Some power users may want to wait to see what happens. As I did hint at earlier, there are a few hardware omissions, but for most people this product is going to be extremely attractive. It's pretty well priced too, €420 before tax and subsidy. That translates to about £430 or so SIM-free on the high street, and we know that UK operators are going to be ranging it at about £31 on an 18-month or a 2-year contract, so very competitively priced, especially compared to some of its competitors like the iPhone and the other high-end Android devices. So there we go, that really concludes our initial look at the Nokia Lumia 800. We've obviously only been able to scratch the surface here. We will be looking in a lot more detail in both videos and text reviews. If you've got any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them. Leave them in the comment thread or send me an email. But there we go, there's the Nokia Lumia 800. It will be available in 6 European countries from November the 16th. That's the UK, France, Germany, Italy, Spain and the Netherlands. It will be coming to other countries around the world in due course. India, Hong Kong and Taiwan are amongst the first countries to get it. It will be available in the USA in early 2012. We're expecting more announcements about that in due course. But it really is a new chapter in Nokia's history. It's their first Windows Phone device and I expect there to be many more of them.